71% of participants abandoned their own correct answer the moment a confident stranger disagreed with them. That stranger was wrong nearly half the time. Read that again. Not occasionally wrong. Not wrong on obscure trivia. Wrong on nearly 1 out of every 2 judgments. And still able to dislodge a correct answer from a human mind more than 7 times out of 10. Sit with that number. It should feel slightly off, slightly indecent, like a rule of physics that shouldn't hold but does. To understand why that number exists, you need to understand the room where it was produced. Researchers call it the judge-advisor system, and the design is almost insultingly simple. A participant, the judge, makes an initial estimate, a number, a fact, a probability. Then an advisor speaks. The judge hears the advice and decides, keep the original answer or switch. That single decision, keep or switch, is the entire experiment. Everything else is architecture built around that one hinge. The assumption going in was reasonable, even obvious. Researchers expected advice-taking to track accuracy. They expected judges to weight an advisor's track record, their credentials, their prior hit rate more heavily than surface delivery. It made sense. Why would a rational information processing organism privilege tone over truth when truth was, in principle, available? The prediction was that confidence would matter only insofar as it correlated with actual competence. A reasonable proxy, nothing more. Nobody expected confidence to become the whole signal. Nobody expected it to eclipse the data itself. Here is what actually happened. Across the judge-advisor literature, the confident advisor's real accuracy hovered around 52%, barely better than a coin flip. The hesitant advisor, the one who hedged, who qualified, who said, "It's probably this, but I'm not fully certain," that advisor was correct closer to 78% of the time. The hesitant source was the better source, substantially better. And still, the majority of judges switched toward the confident, less accurate one. 71% switched. Not most people, most times, 71%, repeatedly, across multiple replications and multiple domains of judgment, from general knowledge questions to visual perception tasks to numerical estimation. The more unsettling finding sits underneath that one. When participants were later shown the advisor's track record, an explicit, undeniable printout of who had been right and who had been wrong, the switching behavior barely moved. A drop of a few percentage points, nothing close to correction. The heuristic did not update in the presence of contradicting data. It absorbed the data and kept running the same program. And in parallel studies isolating the components of confidence itself, delivery beat content on every metric researchers tracked: faster response latency, lower rates of hedging language, steadier vocal pitch. These predicted influence more strongly than the advisor's actual correctness. Confidence was not functioning as a signal correlated with truth. It was functioning as a replacement for it. This is where the mechanism becomes visible, and it is worth looking at directly, without flinching, the way you'd look at any elegant piece of biological machinery. The brain is not lazy, it is efficient, which is a different thing, and efficiency demands shortcuts. Verifying true competence is expensive. It requires memory. Who was right last time and the time before that, weighted across a history the judge would have to actually store and retrieve. Most human judges do not have that ledger. They have never been keeping it. So the brain substitutes a cheaper, faster variable. How does this person sound right now? Fluency of speech, absence of qualification, speed of answer. These are perceivable instantly, in real time with zero cognitive cost. Competence is a historical fact. Confidence is a sensory one. And when a historical fact is expensive to retrieve, the organism defaults to the sensory proxy sitting right in front of it. This is heuristic substitution. One hard question: how accurate is this person? Quietly replaced by an easy one: how sure do they sound? Without the judge ever noticing the swap occurred. And hesitation gets misread inside this same substitution. A hedge. It could be several things. I'd estimate around this range. Sounds to the listening brain like an absence of knowledge. It is almost never that. Hedging is usually the linguistic signature of calibration, a mind that has correctly modeled its own uncertainty and is reporting that uncertainty honestly. The confident wrong advisor and the careful right advisor are not separated by knowledge. They are separated by self-awareness. But self-awareness, spoken aloud, sounds identical to ignorance to an observer running the fluency shortcut. The two are indistinguishable at the surface, and the surface is all the heuristic is built to read. You have done this recently. Not hypothetically, recently. The financial advisor who spoke in flat, declarative certainties about where the market was headed versus the one who gave you a probability range and admitted uncertainty about timing. You likely trusted the first one more, regardless of which one's actual forecasting record was better. The co-worker who gave you a project timeline instantly, without pause, versus the engineer who said, "It depends on several variables I can't fully assess yet." The fast, confident number probably became the number you built your plan around. The physician who stated a diagnosis without qualification versus the one who said it could be several things. We need more tests. The first one likely felt more competent to you in the room, even though qualified uncertainty is frequently the more medically honest position. Online, the same pattern repeats at scale. The stranger who states claims with total certainty accumulates trust faster than the specialist who qualifies every claim with the limits of current evidence. None of this required you to be foolish. It required you to have a brain running its default program. The downstream cost of this is not abstract. It shows up in portfolios built on confident forecasts that underperformed hedged ones. It shows up in health outcomes, in patients who chose the decisive doctor over the accurate one and paid for it in delayed correct diagnoses. It shows up in hiring, where interview performance, fluent, assertive, unhesitating, predicts who gets hired far more reliably than it predicts who actually performs well once hired. And there is a second-order effect that deserves particular attention. This mechanism does not just misallocate trust once. It trains the people being judged. Genuine experts operating inside a marketplace that rewards tone over track record learn, over time, to inflate their certainty, to strip the honest hedge from their own speech, because hedging is punished and confidence is paid. The very calibration that made them trustworthy becomes a liability they learn to hide. The signal the heuristic was built to read gets corrupted by the heuristic's own selection pressure. Good faith uncertainty goes quiet because the room keeps punishing it in real time. And here is where the mechanism catches itself in the act. Without resolution, without a fix, offered. You are listening to a voice right now that has stated all of this in a steady, unhedging, declarative tone. No qualifiers. No, it could be several things. You are rating what you've just heard partly on the confidence of its delivery, partly on how certain this voice sounded, rather than solely on the evidence it cited. That evaluation is happening now, in your skull, whether or not you intended it to. The mechanism does not pause for the video studying it.